Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. It's time for another Transformer review. As we're approaching my birthday next Tuesday, I won't say how old I'm getting, but I will make the quote used by a comedian. I'm 39 again. We're going to look at another espionage group. This is the Autobot Off-Road Patrol. They function in covert activities. The Off-Road Patrol was released in 1989, and they would only be available for that year, being discontinued in 1990, sometime just before the line would be taken out of commission permanently. This is one of the earliest MicroMaster groups. This was actually the second group that I had as a kid growing up. And we have amongst the group Powertrain, High Jump, Mudslinger, and Tote. We're going to take a look at each guy individually, and we'll go from there on them. Alright, for starters, we'll deal with Powertrain. Powertrain is the leader of the team, according to the IDW More Than Meets the Eye guidebooks. Of course, the mold for Powertrain here was repainted to be Ironworks. If I remember correctly, a modern version of Powertrain is about to be released for the Siege toy line. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Now, Powertrain's supposedly a moderately effective leader. He knows that there is that rule in the Commander's Handbook that says if the rules don't work, just slag them. But he's not too big on wanting to go certain routes. He doesn't like to be underhanded or dirty, but knows that there are some things you gotta do to get the job done. At any rate, for his articulation, well, you can move his arms up that high, or bring them all the way down to the side, like so. He does have a joint at the hip, so it does allow you to bend him at the hip about 90 degrees. And you can bend his ankle down as well, but that's more for transforming him than anything else. Alright, to transform Powertrain, we'll start by, we fold down this section at his feet, like so. And we'll fold his arms down to the side, like so. And then we rotate this piece here on his backside. And he is a sleeper cab styled semi-truck. Painted in some rather odd colors. But he's not too bad, especially considering at the time, as these guys were all made to compete against the Micro Machines, at the time the Micro Machine line did not have semi-trucks. Or if they did have semi-trucks available, they were not very common, so he kind of would be a nice toy to fit the bill for many of them. How well does he roll? Well, that's debatable. So, I mean, well, he looks like he has 6 wheels. Only the ones in front and the very back ones are real wheels. The set here in the middle, they're fake wheels. But we'll see how well that makes him roll here on this table. Not very good, folks. So, that's a real downside on him. Next up we have is High Jump. High Jump here is effectively the second in command of the unit. Mainly due to the fact that High Jump is the one that will be the one that goes more of the bad cop route when working alongside Powertrain. He's the one that'll be there to suggest the more negative or the darker options that Powertrain himself does not want to think of. The only thing is that High Jump tends to believe he's always involved in various cloak and dagger missions, sanctioned or otherwise, so it keeps a lot of the other Autobots from really getting to know him. He also doesn't hold a high opinion of his two comrades over there, as he feels the qualities these two bring to the team really don't help as much as they should. But he's kind of learned he's going to have to deal with them. As far as articulation goes for High Jump, well, his arms can be moved almost all. They can be moved about 180 degrees, but of course then you're forcing up the back wheels and the front end of the car on him. Otherwise, they can just move up 90 degrees normally. Does have a joint at the hip that allows him to bend at the hip about 90 degrees, and he can independently bend his legs at the knee about 90 degrees. So all in all, he's pretty well articulated for a Transformer of this scale. Now, to transform High Jump, we start by folding his arms up against the body of the car, like so. Then we'll fold the front end up and snap it into place. And here underneath him, we're going to move the back wheels out of the way. Bend the legs up at the hip like so, and then bend them at the knees, fold them up against him, and then fold the rear wheels back in. And here is his alternate mode. He is a Land Rover Defender, which is pretty much the same alternate mode that Brawn and Outback also share. So apparently the Autobots have a thing for Land Rovers. But I will say this, the dark gray color on him doesn't look too bad. It's a little too clean for a Land Rover, but it isn't bad. Of course, he's got 4 Wii wheels on here. Let's see, how does he roll? He rolls pretty good. He rolls pretty good on the table here, so definitely a plus in his favor. Next up, we have Mudslinger. Mudslinger is the team's camouflage expert, which is strange when you consider the fact that Mudslinger here is the ultimate macho man. He feels he's got to be king of the hill at just about anything. The problem is that it does mean he doesn't have a lot of restraint to hold him back during missions when stealth would be more appropriate. He often is the one that blows the team's cover. It's made worse by the fact that none of his teammates are able to try to convince him of his actions being a problem, because Mudslinger takes it as a personal attack and has to do something about it. So, he's a little weird. Also should be of note that the mold for Mudslinger here was also repainted to be Grease Pit. Now, as far as articulation goes on Mudslinger, he can rotate his arms at the shoulder, but they only goes back about so far and goes up front about so far, so he doesn't have full rotation. You can bend his legs at the hip just slightly less than 90 degrees due to the fact of his pelvic shield here gets in the way. Take that as you may. And he can bend at the knees about 90 degrees, so you can get him to at least look reasonably like he's sitting down somewhere. Again, take that as you may. Alright, to transform Mudslinger, we'll start by folding his head down, like so. Then we're going to fold up his legs, like so, to form the front of the vehicle. And then we rotate his arms down, so that they're pointing at the front wheels. And then there is his alternate mode, a monster truck. I mean, how else can you really describe this, folks? If it weren't for the fact that you could see some of the orange undercarriage on him, some might say he's trying to resemble the Bigfoot monster truck. And of course, a few years earlier, Hasbro did help produce a cartoon based on Bigfoot, the monster truck. It was known as Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines. For those of you who don't remember it, you're lucky. It was not that good, so I guess the less said about it, the better. As for rolling, we'll see how well he does. The front wheels are solid wheels. The back ones, unfortunately, are half wheels. Get it up close to the camera here. As you can see, the interior is solid. This is a solid plastic. That's to hold his arms. So the only part that rolls is this outer portion of the wheel. But let's see how well that makes him roll. Not bad. It could be better. There we go. A little more effort. That did a little better job. So, not perfect, but all in all, not bad either. And lastly, we will take a look here at Tote. Tote is a gifted master of improvisation. So he can come up with a plan on the fly to get the team out of trouble. While that's a handy trick to have, it also backfires a little bit due to the fact that it also means that when his buddy Mudslinger over here is the source of trouble, Tote here is usually the guy that gets him out of it. So that often puts him at odds with High Jump over the fact that Tote can figure a way out of any situation, and that doesn't help them get their teammate to realize he's part of the problem. At any rate, for Tote's articulation, he's a little more limited. His arms can only go about 90 degrees, so they can go straight out like that, or all the way down. He can bend his legs at the hip about 90 degrees. And due to his unique design for the front, he can bend his legs at the knee about 90 degrees. So, pretty well articulated. This group of Micromasters has some pretty good leg motion at least. Now, to transform Tote, we start by folding his arms down. We'll slide the rear of the vehicle up over his head and then press it down on, like so. Then for his legs, push them a little bit inward. We bend them up like so, slide them down, and then finish rotating them, then slide it back to merge with the body. And then here is Tote's alternate form, a minivan, which again would have made him a useful figure to have if you were a Micro Machine collector as well, due to the fact that they really didn't put out any minivans. So Tote could easily go driving around in your Micro Machine cities. And as he's part of a covert activities group, he could spy on your Micro Machines. It's not bad, but unfortunately, his looks appearances, Tote is the worst looking one out of the group due to the fact that you can see the rivets and such for the components for switching out his legs, and he does have the obvious slots here on the top for moving pieces around. So unfortunately, appearance-wise, Tote's got the worst one for the group. But when you consider the fact that he was something that was different, it's kind of hard to fault him about it too much. Again, how does he roll in his little wee wheels? Pretty good for a minivan. You don't usually expect to get that sort of speed out of a minivan. But then again, in the 90s, my mother did have a minivan. And as it turned out, the minivan had high-performance racing tires on it. No joke, folks. High-performance racing tires on a minivan. I don't get it either. Now, the off-road patrol didn't have any loose pieces. Very seldom did any of the MicroMaster teams have that. And there really aren't that many sections of them that can be easily removed, so that's one plus for them. So then, at any rate, we will move on to taking a look at their card backer. As you can see, we've got a very nice card backer. It's not perfect, but it's certainly good enough for our purposes. This was a set that was sold at Toys R Us, and it looks like it retailed for, if you look at it right side up, about $5. At any rate, we look at it here on the back. It has the big thing here to talk about their origins. And it shows over here the 3 sets that were available at that time when this one was released. Then you've got individual instructions for each one, and of course each one has their own motto. Powertrains is, if I can't go through it, I go over it. Mudslingers is, no road is too rough, no foe too tough. High jump is, keep it down and dirty. And Totes is, a rolling Autobot gathers the most Decepticons. And of course, just beneath him, we have the barcode, and we have the robot points. They were worth 1 point. Then we take a look at their tech spec. It's done up in red to show they are Autobots. It even says Autobot above them. And of course, the 4 pictures in here match the 4 pictures of them on the front of the card. It gives their name as the Off-Road Patrol. Their function is covert activities. The team's motto is, don't follow orders, follow instincts. This quartet has an independent streak that runs as long as the Appalachian Trail. Experts at covert operations. Always work well together in any combat situation. Specialize in going where no one's ever gone and doing what no one's ever done. Continually caught up in some sort of enemy intrigue. Autobot Command trusts them to come up with brilliant countermeasures to be sprung on the Decepticons. It's kind of a lame bio for the group, but whatever works. At any rate, let's lay the decoder over it and see what it says about their stats. It gives their teamwork and cooperation as 9s. Their strength is 6. Their intelligence is 8. Their speed is 3. No, we said that wrong. It was their endurance that's 8, not their intelligence. Their intelligence is 9. Their courage is 8, and their skill is 6. Keep forgetting they changed the thing for the Micromasters there. So I got a little ahead of myself. I do apologize, folks. Now, at any rate, we get to my thoughts. What do I think of the Off-Road Patrol? The Off-Road Patrol is an interesting group, especially more so now that we can read up and learn more about the individual personalities behind the group. You got a somewhat by-the-book commander and his devil's advocate buddy next to him. A macho man that won't back down from a challenge, and the best person to have around at improv night. All in all, they're a bit of a mixed-matched team, but I think it works well for them. They seem to be able to accomplish their missions with little to no trouble. So, all in all, if the camera would stop moving on me here, I would have to say they're a very excellent group to have. But I'm still going to keep them somewhat in the middle tier, due to some of the flaws with the way their toys are designed. I mean, they got great articulation for Transformers of their size, so you can pose them around in various positions. Especially would probably have helped if more of the city play sets had been made with places to stand or sit Micromasters at. That might have been something nice for Hasbro to have done at the time. But also, just the way some of them were done up. I don't like the non-functional wheels on Powertrain. It's kind of, if you're going to put wheels on him, put wheels on him that work. Since we know they can do it for ones that don't need an axle, because that's the way the ones are on his arms, so why couldn't we have had real ones on his legs? And like I stated earlier, Tote's appearance is kind of the worst due to all the visible things you can see on him that are used for transforming him. So those are going to work against them in terms of display and whatnot. But all in all, they're definitely a set that one shouldn't ignore. They do get along reasonably well together, and they do their job at spying on the Decepticons. What more could you want? Anyways, that's my review of the Autobot Covert Activities Group, the Off-Road Patrol. If you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and join up within our ranks. Also, make sure to ring the notification bell so you'll get notified when I post future content. And please do share your thoughts about the Off-Road Patrol in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701, reminding you that not only it's my birthday weekend, it's also Memorial Day weekend. So please do remember your loved ones this weekend, and I'll catch you all later.